So, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, or good morning, wherever you are in the part of the world. I'm Simran, and I'm going to present my paper titled Good or Bad: The Paradoxical Relationship of Heritage Tourism and Archaeology. Now, on first glance, it might seem as a very simplistic relationship, at times too antagonistic, or at times too, like a match made in heaven, especially when we see economic sort of underpinning all things archaeological. But sadly, that's not the case. It's too complex, often fraught with tensions, apprehensions, and quite uneasy. And this is what I'm going to investigate in my presentation today. Now, before I get started, I also wanted to bring this image on my title slide into focus. It's a drawing of a map of Shahjahanabad, late 18th century Delhi, one of the case studies that I will be looking at. And I just want to sort of put it out there how urban heritage sites, which is going to be a running theme across my presentation, become that crucial point of contestation where there is a constant need for reconciliation between conservation, development, and touristic activity. So with that, I'll just get started. And so what is it exactly that I'm looking for? Firstly, I'll start by contextualizing various theoretical perspectives in order to understand what implications heritage tourism has for archaeology. I will then go on to highlight issues faced by heritage sites in a dynamic urban landscape. I will then look at how tourism may serve as a crucial tool for saving certain archaeological sites, which may at times override its possible destructive tendencies. And following from that, at possible integration of heritage tourism in the cultural economy setup for conservation as well as development. So, what exactly is heritage tourism? For some, it might be recreation or staging of traditions for an intended audience. It has also been seen as a heralder of sustainability and economic development by some. For some, a tool for heritagization of urban spaces. Now, this term is quite controversial. For some, it means creation of fantasy spaces with little to no local meanings attached. For some, it's the rediscovery by cities of their own historical past in order to fuel their economies. For some, it's repossessing of the past in order to, in a way, depict a political image of that contemporary time. So, quite dicey there, and something that we will see when I discuss the case studies. It may also mean transformation of old spaces to recreate new ones. And that happens in response to the wants of the tourist or the audience or the visitor that is visiting that site. And finally, heritage tourism may also be seen as a tool which may protect existing identities or even construct new ones in the face of dynamic changes and globalization. So, archaeology and tourism, what exactly is their relationship? Now, for many archaeological sites are like crime scenes. They are best left untouched. Uh, Heritage sources are finite sources, which, you know, are threatened by the constant activity that tourism sort of brings in. But I believe that's a very generic and uncritical view that we adopt of archaeology and tourism. More than often, as I stated before, it's always focused on the economy of things and not really the turn that tourism took towards sustainability and preservation around 2 decades ago. They have an inconspicuously shared past where the figure of the tourist, that is the public, is a common figure. And in a way, both of them do stage certain things, thereby blurring the line between authentic and inauthentic, which I will come to the point where I discuss concerns about preserving authenticity. What exactly is authentic? Uh, is it really a tool by the nationalist government, so as to say, to project a certain ideology and then repackage that past as authentic? Again, something that we will see when I discuss Shahjahanabad. We also have concerns about over tourism. Now, Kaur really in his study of Petra highlights that, where he talks about how unregulated sites, over tourism at sites is a major threat to the values that these sites possess. And that leads to the other question of commodification and displacement, which may in turn lead to cultural objectification, displacement of local communities. And a prime example of this is actually the site of Hampi in southern India, where you can see that the visual heritage and the everyday living traditions are in constant conflict, where in the garb of managing the site better, repackaging it for tourists really means displacement of the local community, deeming them as encroachers on the site. So with that, I'll just straight away jump into the case studies. Now, in the maps in front of you, the first map shows both the sites where they are located in India. You can see the map of Delhi, and Shahjahanabad is a region there, also termed as Old Delhi, a city built in late 17th century, around 1639 CE, by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. But it has a constantly evolving urban fabric. So you see the site evolving from its Mughal origins to colonial occupation and then the post-colonial sites. On the other hand, I have the city of Gurugram or Gurgaon, Gurugram being the recent name. That's a city in the state of Haryana, which underwent rapid urbanization just 2 decades ago. It also has a lot of Mughal and colonial sites, but mostly unprotected. Now, firstly, I'll discuss Shahjahanabad. So it's a walled city, a place to some World Heritage sites like Red Fort. You have the Jama Masjid. You also have urban heritage sites like Havelis, which are basically courtyard dwellings. But you also have various other unprotected sites which are not even listed. And in the midst of that, you are negotiating this in a rapidly changing urban setup, which is mostly defined by poor urban infrastructure, poor public facilities, excessive crowding, and all of this also occurring when you are sort of negotiating different socio-cultural and historical identities. So going back to what I said about Mughal colonial and post-colonial identities, you have to understand in terms of the contemporary political and socio-cultural narrative as well, not just in the present, but also in the past. So if I take the example of the Red Fort in Shahjahanabad, it was projected as something, as a part of Mughal grandeur, shifted to the colonial occupation of the site, shifted to the association with freedom struggle, and then finally, it has shifted to the whole Hindutva narrative, where there's a concerted effort to, sort of hide aspects of the site, which may show its foreign invader aspects, as opposed to what is native. So, the othering of heritage is quite rampant here. And again, there is a problem of over-tourism at the site. There was also the question of it being listed as a World Heritage City back in 2015, which was withdrawn by the government. A very interesting case where it also raised concerns about how urban development is seen as in being direct conflict with conservation and preservation of sites. But there was also the other side of it where they were pressing on the foreign invader narrative a bit more by saying, like, why should we preserve this site if it's not really native to our country, so as to say. But on the other hand, I have the case of Gurugram, a site with lots and lots of Mughal and colonial sites, all of them unprotected. Most of the sites like the Bachapur Fort, they don't even exist anymore. It also has intangible heritage traditions, and all of them are not even listed in the Archaeological Survey of India's list. There's also an absence of site memories from the mainstream narratives. The locals don't really know what the sites are about. And this, if combined with the poor urban infrastructure that this city also faces, becomes a problem because there's not enough socioeconomic development, nor is there protection of the sites there. So what exactly can we do? Now, as we can see, both tourism and archaeology, they do occur in a volatile relationship, but archaeological sites are public goods at the end, where now the need is to shift from just the economic focus to sustainability and participatory management in the sites. And this is what I argue for: decentralization, including all stakeholders in the site when we are looking at, formulating plans for tourism and urban regeneration. And basically the bottoms up approach while looking at these sites. So this was a very brief account of this complex relationship, but here's a list of selected bibliography in case you want to look at it a bit more. And if you have any further questions, you can please feel free to reach out to me. And with that, thank you.